haunting will be structured with a predictable presentation, a beginning, a middle, and an end. The incidents recorded here refuse to be that orderly. Sometimes, people writing to me about their encounters have been so overwhelmed by their experience that they have not been able to recall all the details. This can, occasionally, leave us with fragments, a possibly frustrating result in a world so fond of tidy resolutions. We tend to find it more satisfying when loose ends are bound up in the last sentence of a tale. Nonetheless, I hope you will find, as I have come to, that in the instances where there isn't enough information to tell a traditional story, the parts that are missing are every bit as provocative as the parts that remain. The following is a new collection of stories, new in that none of the stories has been published in this series before. For the most part, they are tales that have been brought to my attention most recently. Each one chosen for inclusion has succeeded in making me firmly believe that we do not and cannot completely understand the world around us. Is there such a thing as ghosts? Isn't there such a thing as ghosts? I don't think we can ever know for sure. What I do know is that the people who've entrusted me with their stories have had profoundly moving experiences. I also know that I've had a few incidents in my life that I cannot explain. I know that I've seen a lid from a sugar bowl lift off its base, travel through the air and set itself down gently. There were only 2 people in the room at that time, and neither of us was touching either the bowl or its lid. I've seen inexplicable mists, pillars of vapor. I've smelled cigarette smoke where there's been no earthly reason for such an odor to be present. I've sat alone in a hotel room, contemplating how best to tell some ghost stories for which I had a particular fondness, when the light from the bedside lamp simply and mysteriously went out, only to come back on, just as simply and just as mysteriously a minute or so later. Am I a believer? Definitely more so than not. I'll admit we may be misnaming the phenomena we're labeling as ghosts, but that could merely reflect the constant conundrum about language. It both creates and limits our reality. So, having posed far more questions than you'll find answered in this book, I invite you to dive into the stories. I hope you enjoy them. Let them play with your emotions and your imagination, but most of all, I simply hope that you have fun reading the stories I've retold here. I've certainly enjoyed writing them. If you have any ghost stories of your own that you'd like to share with me, I'd be pleased to hear from you. You can write to me, care of Lone Pine Publishing. Chapter 1. Haunted Houses. Our homes are extremely important to most of us. Whether home is a single room in a boarding house, a ranch, a city bungalow, or a condominium apartment in a downtown high-rise, we humans tend to develop strong emotional attachments to our homes. Perhaps, then, it shouldn't be too surprising that such an intimate, emotionally laden area is frequently also the site of paranormal activity. As you will find when you read the following tales, how homes become haunted and what the ghostly activity consists of vary as much as the homes themselves. Location, location, location. In 1997, Kathy Smith first wrote to me about her family's paranormal experiences in a southeast Edmonton townhouse. I was especially intrigued because I live fairly close to the haunted rental property. The townhouse the Smiths lived in is part of a development that was built to help ease the housing shortage following the Second World War. The housing units must have been considered quite innovative when they were built, and even today, they retain the look of a unique community and offer a comfortable place to live at a reasonable price. The residences are laid out in clusters of 6, surrounded by spacious lawns, and from the outside appear to be identical, each with a basement, a ground floor, and a second story. The Smiths, Kathy, her husband Gary, and their 2.5-year-old daughter Jackie, moved into the complex in 1992. It wasn't long before Kathy began to suspect that their new accommodations were anything but ordinary. Shortly after we moved into the townhouse, we began to notice that something was not quite right, Kathy explained, adding that the basement was especially creepy, and that whenever she went down there to do the laundry, she had the distinct impression that she was not alone. I felt that someone was watching me. There was a large, old furnace to the right of the washer and dryer that I found rather scary looking on its own, and I could feel a presence near it.